welcome to today's Pharmaversity podcast, where we dive into a very exciting topic, which is decarbonizing the glass packaging supply chain with FIOLAX Pro OCF. My name is Yen, and I'm your host today. We will explore fascinating stories, have insightful interviews, and thought-provoking discussions that will inspire and entertain you. Whether you are a supply chain manager, purchaser, research person, or someone who just loves to learn and discover new things, this podcast is for you. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and join us on this exciting journey. To learn more about the benefits that FIOLAX Pro OCF brings with it and about the criteria for calling it the right solution for decarbonization, I have with me Claudia and Florence. Both are in this industry for decades and dedicating their work to innovation. Claudia is Senior Global Product Manager at SCHOTT Tubing, and Florence is Head of Global Product Management at SCHOTT Pharma. Hi Claudia, hi Florence, welcome. Nice to have you here today.
Hi Yen.
Hi Yen. So thanks for the introduction. For me, it's actually the first time. Nice to be here.
So let's start. Your Pharmaversity session is called Decarbonizing the Glass Packaging in Supply Chain with FIOLAX Pro OCF. Can you tell me a bit about your motivation for this speech?
Yes, Yen. So our motivation is actually a big one. It's the climate change, because this stands as one of the most pressing challenges of our time. It demands innovative solutions to decarbonize production and supply chains, and not only in one country, but globally. Because our emissions drive the global warming or cause extreme weather disruptions, for example, just to name two effects of that.
Yes, for additional points, the motivation is, as Claudia said, rooted in the urgent needs. But also we need to focus on the supply chain because the responsibility that we all have to fulfill with innovative solutions. So the FIOLAX Pro OCF represents a significant advancement in pharmaceutical glass packaging. It's designed to meet the industry needs for sustainability in line with demanding complex pharmaceuticals. And the second point is the industrial leadership. So by adopting and promoting FIOLAX Pro OCF, companies like us, but also our customers in pharma can position themselves as leaders in sustainability. And this is not only to enhance their reputation, but also aligns with a growing demand for consumers and stakeholders to environmentally responsible products. And last but not least, the regulatory compliance and the collaborative efforts. So as regulations around carbon emissions become stricter, adopting sustainable practices like those enabled by FIOLAX Pro OCF help companies to stay ahead of regulatory requirements and avoid potential penalties. Yes. And so decarbonizing the supply chain is requiring collaboration across the industry. And this is why Claudia and I are here today. So I hope our speech can inspire and encourage, as you said, Yen, other stakeholders to join the effort, fostering a collective movement towards a more sustainable future.
Well understood. So looking into the pharmaceutical packaging supply chain, what has to be considered and how does it start?
Here I can start, Yen, with the tubing perspective, because when we look at the process in the very beginning, it all starts with our raw material for the initial glass melting. So these are in total about 5 or 6 components. For example, quartz sand is the main component. And here we already have the first contribution, because normally we talk about a calculation starting from the cradle, so including the raw materials. And here we already have the first part of emissions during processing, purification, etc. But then these raw materials arrive at our sites. They get inspected, of course, and then stored in big silos. Next step is then that the individual glass recipe is mixed together and then conveyed into a dedicated glass melting tank. This is where the raw materials get melted and form a homogeneous liquid glass. You can probably imagine that for making sand liquid, temperatures from a standard oven, for example, will not be high enough. And that's true. So for melting, for example, a borosilicate glass, a temperature of around 1600 degrees Celsius is needed. Imagine that number. Even if I have been working for SCHOTT for many, many years already, this number still sounds so incredibly high for me.
Oh, wow. Yes, you are right, Claudia. When I think of making food at home in the oven, 200 degree is already high. But in relation to glass melting, this sounds like peanuts. Okay, and what happens next?
Next step, now it's getting colder again. So the next step is the tube drawing process. This is the case when a certain amount of liquid glass flows on the outer surface of a so-called Danner mandrel. This mandrel is rotating and wraps the glass around it. And then at the other side, we have a drawing machine. This machine pulls the glass away from this mandrel, and by this it creates a drawing line with a length of approximately 60 meters, thus kind of an endless, never-ending glass tubing. By the way, this is very impressive to see. So as soon as you have the chance to look into such kind of production, I would truly recommend that. And after that, the tubing is cut into lengths, the desired tubing end is formed, and after some further processing and final inspection, it is packed into bundles and finally pellets.
And these are then the pellets which are delivered to the converting sites, right?
Yes, exactly. So roughly when those pellets arrive with the tubes that are around 1,50 meters, you can distinct 20 additional process steps until again the pharma customer is delivered with a final primary packaging container. So exemplarily for vials without needle gluing and coating like you have in syringes with the silicone, I can explain it to you. So we take the tubes, we load them onto a machine. You can imagine that the tubes are closed to prevent from contamination. So there needs to be the first heating step to open the tubing. This is all done by flames. You have then preheating and preforming steps to make the neck with final heating steps. So you hear heating, heating, heating to do the vial forming. Then you need to also use electricity for the camera measurements, the in-process control. Everything is automated today. You have pre-part heating to form then the bottom, mechanical parting. You heat again the bottom to give it the final shape. Yeah, all those steps until the transportation to then releasing the stress out of the glass that comes from the forming, where you have temperatures well above 500. Yeah, the inspection systems again at the end for the cosmetic inspection, packaging if it's automated, etc., and up to the pelletizing and wrapping of the pellets is all consuming for sure electricity and energy. So then comes the customer delivery, as we just said, but you see there is a few single steps that need to be addressed and that consume in our world energy.
Wow, what a process chain. Can you explain to us exemplarily the carbon footprint of a standard vial?
Yes, sure. So if we're talking about those vials and we say the majority of the vials are 2 ml or also, let's say, in the middle range, 10 ml, this exemplarily shows that more than half of the consumption comes from the tubing, and then around 40% from the converting, and the final around 10% come from the packaging. So this is really how it is in an original point of view for CO2 emission.
Okay, so this means the biggest lever is the melting process?
Yes, exactly, Jen. So as Florent said, more than half is coming from the tubing production process. Of course, there are many, many numbers of factors that can also be adjusted and can achieve a certain amount of saving, such as transport, packaging, etc. But if you really want to significantly reduce the CO2 emissions, you can't avoid addressing the glass melting process. Here we have the main lever, and I also can put numbers on it. If you go down into detail into the tubing production process, we mainly have two blocks. So we have the raw material blocks and then the melting. And the raw materials are around 1/3, and the melting is the remaining 2/3. So that is really the biggest lever to work on.
So then, what do you need and what is the difficulty?
What we absolutely need and require is what is the pharma industry demanding. So we need to maintain the highest quality without any compromises, because in this industry, safety, patient safety is always number one. If you think back to previous pharmaversities, Jen, maybe you remember it was often discussed that the demands on pharmaceutical packaging are increasing because medications are becoming more and more sensitive and thus more demanding. So our top priority is really to ensure that any alternative melting technology must deliver the same high quality without any compromise. And also to name a second point, quantity. Our pharma melting tanks are very large. So probably you can compare it with the size of the office you are currently sitting in, and they are designed for a significant output. Any alternative must also be considered on this scale to continue serving the global market. Of course, we could start with smaller units, but we would remain in a niche, and that's not our aim here. So we want to make long-term progress on a big scale.
For me, the conclusion is you need to be a healthy and a big player to dig into alternatives, right? So what could that be?
Yes, you're right, Jen. So at the moment, the melting furnaces are kept at these high temperatures by the combustion of natural gas and oxygen. Therefore, we need to look towards alternative energy sources. We have two main contenders here coming to the forefront, electricity and hydrogen. So which to take now? SCHOTT is exploring both directions. And maybe you're following press conferences, social media, etc. Then you will occasionally read about trials, most likely successful trials, but there you can already read something about our path to go to. However, to decide for one, the lack of infrastructure remains a major disadvantage for hydrogen. On the other hand, electrification offers many advantages, and availability is not as big of an issue here.
Claudia, you are right. That sounds great. But what does that mean for you go for electricity?
So yes, exactly. Of course, that makes only sense when you want to use electricity that we need to have green electricity available, because otherwise we wouldn't go down with our emissions. But here we have the big advantage that SCHOTT has committed already to science-based targets to ensure a reliable and scientific approach to this issue. And SCHOTT has started already many years ago a very ambitious climate goal, including the switch to green electricity. So all the process steps you have seen where electricity is needed is already switched and shifted to 100% green electricity.
So that means that in all packaging sites, Jan, essentially, yeah, the green electricity is also available. So the same counts for SCHOTT Pharma. And these significant strides and commitments to sustainability by switching to this 100% green energy has been successful. The transition as really part of our broader zero carbon strategy, aiming for climate neutral production by 2030. So the full transition to green electricity, as Claudia said, happened since 2021. And SCHOTT has switched all its electricity requirements to green energy through energy attribute certificates and power purchase agreements. So reduction in carbon emissions, thanks to this switch, has contributed already to a 60% reduction in carbon emissions since 2019. So despite increased energy consumption, this production demands, as you have seen, we are quite successful in this. So what we have just depicted on the vials and the consumption, which was the original step, has already reduced in the first step.
Okay, understood. That means that there is already significant saving by using green electricity already now. And the next huge step will come as soon as a melting tank will be switched to electricity. So after this energy and production discussion, let's come back to your products. You mentioned FIOLAX Pro OCF in the title. The FIOLAX brand I know, but what does the Pro and the OCF stands for?
Good question, Jen. And probably also our audience is on the same level like you. So probably most of you know FIOLAX because this is known worldwide as our premium pharma glass since ages and decades with a very long history. Actually, did you know that this brand is already more than 100 years old? So at some point, it is time for an update. And this is where the Pro stands for. So the Tech Pro stands for a further developed FIOLAX glass with improved properties, but at the same time still being very close to its original version. And then finally, to make the package complete, OCF is the abbreviation for optimized carbon footprint. And therefore, this is linked to the new melting technology with the carbon dioxide emission saving. So in the end, it is the combination of a future-proof glass with a future-proof technology.
So is this the product you can realize your green transformation with?
Exactly, Jen. So this is our promising offering for the future. It meets the increasing demands of the pharmaceutical packaging industry and makes the necessary contribution to decarbonize the value chain.
Thank you, Claudia. So at the beginning, we talked about a 10 ml vial. Is this the only type of packaging and size you are focusing on?
So no, not at all, Jen. The essence in the pharma industry, whatever product it is, from an ampule to a syringe, is to get a global standard for its packaging type in the standard sizes today, meaning we offer all core products since January 2024 for testing, including custom sizes for the customers who want to keep their specialty and their standard.
Oh, wow, that sounds like you have performed a huge development program on the tubing and packaging side.
Exactly, Jen. So on the tubing side, this electric large-scale pharma tank is an invest of in total 40 million euro. Imagine that. And additionally, the glass has been developed and also to be accepted to commercial sales for almost a decade and tested extensively already.
And on the packaging side, we have done this too, ensuring the equivalency for our customers, meaning that we have for all vial sizes done all necessary studies, so that indicate the comparability, the comparable performance for FIOLAX clear in comparison to FIOLAX Pro. So taking into account the measurement uncertainty that you may have in the different testings, both tubes and then converted into their packaging show that all measured parameters can be considered like for like. And this is very important to the pharma industry to know that the future product that is sustainable is really providing the same benefits and the same needs that you have with your existing product today. It goes from extractable studies that we have performed on the worst case sizes like vials in 2 ml, but also all the ICH, Q3D, and it has been done until the bigger containers, the ampules. Predictive screening methods according to USP 1660 have been done with selective buffer systems that we regularly use to show very hard corrosion forms on the glass surface and also the delamination problems. And also here for both screenings, the FIOLAX Clear and the FIOLAX Pro glass containers cannot confirm any different behavior for those risks that exist, like delamination. So we can really state that this is a like-for-like glass, which in combination with the sustainability is really great advancement.
Thank you, Florence. So coming back to the decarbonizing container, is the difference measurable? How much do you save at the end?
The difference is measurable, and we are very happy to share this with you, but not in the podcast, but in the presentation that will come 19th of March.
Thanks, Florence and Claudia, for this interesting talk and for guiding the audience through the challenges of decarbonizing the pharma packaging supply chain and solutions from SCHOTT Tubing and SCHOTT Pharma. And that if we want to know more, we can talk to you. So thanks to the audience for listening and supporting us. We really hope we've triggered good ideas. See and hear you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.